Gordon with IS Squared, and we're excited to have you join us today for our Fireside chat. We hope this is of value to you to better understand the cyber insurance landscape, coverages, and risk avoidance requirements. So please feel free to engage with us then. IS Squared is a leading provider of cybersecurity, cloud infrastructure, consulting, and digital transformation services. In addition to an extensive set of IT solutions, we offer a comprehensive portfolio of products to address operational excellence and solve today's most pressing security and governance needs. Joining us today is Sharmeen Rahman with Blackfire Cyber Insurance, who brings a vast amount of insurance and technology experience to provide entrepreneurs, startups, small and medium-sized businesses with cost-effective and comprehensive coverage from A-rated insurance carriers. Sharmeen, would you please introduce yourself and give our audience a brief background on your experience and expertise?
Thank you, Paul. I'm excited to be here with IS Squared and our conversation today. A little bit about me. I have over 13 years of insurance industry experience. I am also accredited and certified in cyber insurance, risk management, and privacy regulation roadmap. And I'm also the CEO and founder of Blackfire Cyber Insurance. And to that, Blackfire specializes in cybersecurity insurance, technology insurance, professional liability, management liability, which is also known as D&O, and commercial insurance to assist companies of all sizes in building risk management portfolio.
And it's a pleasure to have you with us, Sharmeen. You're licensed in all 50 states to write
Yes.
these policies, so we're glad that you could spend the time with us.
Thank you.
You've written thousands of policies in the past few years and even recorded breaches and claims on those policies. What is cyber insurance? Why is it a good idea in 2024? And what are some of the high-level details our listeners should be aware of?
Any business that uses technology and humans to run business is vulnerable to cyber attack. Every business is exposed to ransomware, social engineering, phishing, data breach, hacks, fund transfer fraud, other types of cybercrime. We have to remember that we live in the digital era where hackers are constantly trying to get to us as well with bad intent. Another thing we need to consider is loss of business. Systems are critical to operating day-to-day business, but the downtime is not covered by standard business interruption insurance. Business interruption due to cyber event could put a pause on doing or running our business. Cyber insurance could play a huge role in recouping some of those losses. Another thing we should consider is reputation harm coverage. That can play a huge role within the cyber policy. Although there are certain reputational risks that can't be insured, you can insure your reputation in the event of a cyber security breach. When your systems have been compromised, you run a risk of losing trust of your loyal customers, which can bring harm to your business far more than immediate financial loss. Cyber insurance can not only help pay for the cost of engaging a PR firm to help restore this, but also for the loss of future sales that arise as a direct result of customers switching to your competitors. Coverage for the fees and cost to restore reputation in response to negative publicity following a cyber incident or a security breach would also fall under cyber insurance coverage. This includes, for example, the fees associated with hiring of a public relations firm that handles external communications related to the breach.
So, would what happened to Change Healthcare recently be an example where their parent company was compromised and exposed United Healthcare Group to a massive nationwide pharmacy outage?
We are constantly hearing about this cyber event of United Healthcare Company that happened through one of their companies of Change Healthcare. All the all the communication, the efforts to repair would be part of cyber coverage. To that point, I'd like to also add that Though United Healthcare became a part of supply chain cyber attack, they're still responsible for the data they own. Beside tightening and leveling up their security posture even further, they now have a rep that needs to be reprimanded, and all that is done typically via PR firms. So you're absolutely on point.
So, what about agreements I might have with a vendor's or customer's data?
So glad you brought that up, Paul. It is so important to understand that when a third party vendor could be attacked, it may impact the ability to do business and exposing data within all the channels. Even if we use a third party vendor for business services, as a data owner, we are still legally responsible. We all utilize various softwares to run our business on day to day. At a minimum, we have accounting, payroll software, or databases software via another company. These data are still owned by the company. Quick example, an organization became a victim of a phishing scam, which then compromised the W-2s of their own employees, about 300 of them, through vendor software. By the time they realized what had happened, numerous employees already had tax return fraudulently filed in their names. Notification cost to the employees, and 2 years of identity theft protection covered by cyber insurance at no cost to the employees was provided. A thorough cyber insurance policy is a necessity to ensure that businesses run smoothly following an event like this.
So, it sounds like there's the data that's important to the company and the data that's important to the individual that the policy covers.
Completely. Even if you have data through third party, it is not all on them. You are just as responsible.
Another recent breach at Fidelity Investments, likely the results of an unauthorized third party obtaining information by another third party service provider, IMS. The data breach, which Fidelity said was discovered on February 13th, may have exposed certain Fidelity customers' names, social security numbers, state of residence, bank account, routing numbers, birth date, all sorts of PII.
Yeah, exactly. We are so interconnected in today's digital era that we must think bigger than just ourselves and our platform. You could be up to date on constantly keeping up with software and system updates, great cybersecurity posture, but you would never know 100% what is happening within your vendors or clients' operations or vulnerabilities that may exist that are directly or indirectly connected to your business. Just like we're good drivers, we don't know about the drivers next door. And that's the reason we have car insurance as our safety net, right? In case the worst happen or we need to knock on our car insurance for any reason or another.
Charmaine, a vast majority of small and medium sized businesses that are breached have a hard time financially in that next 6 months of operations. Data forensics experts alone can run about $600 an hour. How does a cyber insurance policy with those expenses?
There are several reasons to add cyber insurance policy to a business portfolio and have a financial safety net. Hackers are always adapting to overcome cyber defenses with new versions of current threats or creating brand new methods of attacking businesses. Easy to hack passwords, phishing emails, or even a lost or stolen laptop also present potential entry points for a cyber criminal. Another thing I would want all of us to think about is that small to medium sized businesses are quantity targets. Think supply chain cyber attack. You may not be the final destination, but rather gateway to or for another organization. Expenses related to cybersecurity breaches and cybercrime is a financial nightmare and can be devastating to recoup from. We talked about digital threats earlier. no matter what your IT security team or cybersecurity company puts in place for you, they cannot control human interaction with technology. Various sources have reported that up to 88% of cyber incidents are caused by human failure.
So not only is it cat and mouse with the adversary, the bad guys in this case, but it's also we got to keep training our people to who are the target of these things. We got to train them on a regular basis too.
Yeah, you're right. We're constantly advancing, right? So we are not advancing with the malicious intent, but they are. So we have to constantly teach ourselves and build resiliency.
Yep. Besides financial resources, cyber insurance also helps with guidance in recovering from a breach. When it comes to paying a ransom, what impact does the Treasury Department's OFAC list, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, what impact does that have on companies and individuals that choose to pay a ransom?
Right. You know, this is such an important topic, and it's always going to be changing when it comes to OFAC and the guidelines. These sanctions are put in place and are constantly being monitored by the officials and being updated constantly. Even if you are working with a cybersecurity firm or cyber insurance team with vendor panels that they have, they are going to be right along your side to make sure that you are not breaching any laws there, because some of the ransomware groups are not allowed to be paid, even if you come up with an agreement. So it is very important to keep that in mind. And cyber insurance carriers are the ones who are constantly studying the OFAC guidelines and making sure that we're abiding by all the laws.
Yeah, and I think that list is several thousand pages long.
It's
So
very long.
that's right. You're going to need some help with that. Now,
Definitely.
this might be a very general question, but how does cybersecurity coverage work? And can you explain what cyber insurance coverage is and how it's different from general liability or other business insurances?
Yes, it's so important to understand the differences. If your company suffers a cyber attack with only E&O or general liability in place, you will not have coverage for a significant portion of your actual expenses. Cyber insurance deals with legal and technological aspect of privacy, data breach, and cyber attacks. This is why nearly every business requires cybersecurity coverage along with other business insurance to prevent financial ruin after a cyber attack. An example, that stolen laptop that I was talking about earlier, it's covered under general liability, not the data and other info on the laptop and any other access the laptop provides, only the physical laptop itself. So there's a huge difference in how you would be covered.
It's right. It seems like data really does have a value and a life all its own.
And it continues for, goes towards third party liability lawsuits, not just the lost stolen laptop.
That's right. That makes a lot of sense. And I would not want to be caught without a cyber policy. Can you help us understand what kinds of coverages are available?
First off, we need to ensure that we are not just adding cyber coverage as an endorsement to another policy, but rather secure a standalone cyber insurance policy. Any full blown cyber policy will have first party and third party cyber coverages. And I'll give you a quick example. Homeowners policy, it covers our own property as well as slips and falls of another person at our home, and our homeowner follows us for mishap elsewhere. This works the same way. Within the first party cyber coverages, first party is you, your business, your expenses. First party includes the expenses that you would incur as a policy holder. To understand the effect of the cyber attack on the business, the IT forensic team is assigned and vendor panel is provided, such as lawyers, accountants, all of them fall under first party coverage. Ransomware and business interruption caused by system failure due to cyber event would also fall under first party coverage. When there is a third party breach, your company needs to pay for notification costs, credit monitoring, and any other requirements that are dictated by the state and regulatory bodies. These are all categorized as first party cyber incident expenses and also known as breach cost or breach expenses. Now, the third party cyber coverage is there to make whole of the parties whose data under your supervision got breached. When there's a breach, there are defense costs, liability lawsuits and costs, fees, fines, penalties from regulatory bodies. These third party cyber damages would be covered under cyber policy for up to the limit purchased.
And I'm sure that if you're a third party to somebody else, the third party company might not want to bring suit, but if there's an issue, the third party's insurance company might want to recover their costs as well. Speak to that for just a little bit.
Yes, so that is where they could subrogate against you.
Yep.
And this is where it's really important that when it's subrogated to come after you, because essentially it was through their forensic analysis, they found out it was essentially, you were at fault. This is where you could also knock on your cyber insurance policy and make sure that you are made whole, for the third party liability lawsuits.
Yeah, and that seems to be up to the insurance company, kind of out of the hands of the policyholder.
Right, exactly.
Terrific. Or not so terrific
No,
if you're the third
it
party,
depends
right?
where you are in the line of
That's right.
cyber event. Yes.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay, go
Charmaine,
ahead.
what does cyber coverage look like for small and mid-sized enterprises versus large and public companies?
We always think that those enterprises coverages look different than us, but you'd be surprised to know that it's not that different. Cyber policies are personalized based on your business information, your services, your risks. A comprehensive cyber insurance policy would include coverages that are trending. The cyber coverage from a carrier may look the same, but the premium, the deductibles, the limits, the sublimits, those would be based on the company size and risks. Just because we are not Amazon or United Health doesn't mean we won't need the similar coverages and won't have similar liability lawsuits or expenses. You'd still want to make sure it is not just a cyber endorsement, but a standalone cyber policy. You don't know which insurance agreement you'd need to rely on for the financial support needed to come out of this and survive the attack.
How does a customer know they are choosing the right carrier for cyber coverage?
AM Best rating of insurance carriers is extremely important. It is advisable to utilize carriers with A minus and above rating, as that's based on financial strength and claim history of the carrier. Another thing I want to point out is claim reputation. It is so important to constantly study and keep up with the changing cyber market and to ensure that cyber offerings are matching up to what cyber trends are today. Policy forms are constantly being updated. As we advance in technology, so do the bad guys. And unfortunately, it may be a reactive, proactive game as we don't use technology with malicious intent. Carriers that constantly keep up with digital threats by studying their claim and enhancing their policy forms accordingly are the winners in my eyes.
Charmaine, so let's get to some of these new trends and threat vectors. What are you seeing with your clients in the wild?
Policy forms are constantly changing and being updated, and all of those carriers who are super cyber focused are always making sure that they are studying their claims and constantly updating their policies accordingly, right? There are quite a few updates that we've seen within the last couple of years. Cryptojacking is one of them. This is where a hacker might be, hacking into your energy or your electricity and stealing it for mining crypto, and you may not realize it until few months later. So this is something that we're seeing on our policy as a regular coverage. We're also seeing reverse social engineering, also known as invoice manipulation, as part of cybercrime. We're also seeing utility and telephone fraud as part of the cybercrime coverage. Another thing we're seeing is dependent business interruption. This is coverage for financial losses due to the cyber event when a third party provider experiences a cyber event that causes you disruption. Third party often include cloud providers, as we were talking about earlier, or it could be another software, services, hosting providers. So it is really important to have that coverage, and a lot of carriers are recognizing that. Another thing that we're seeing is system failure. This is coverage for financial losses due to business interruption resulting from an unplanned or unintentional outage of a system operated by a third party vendor, often caused by employee error or power outage. Some carriers are also adding and offering coverages for first party breach cost outside of and in addition to the policy aggregate limit. So something really good to have if the carrier is offering that.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about a tough day. The day you get a call about a breach. This is where IS Squared, insurance brokers, clients, we get to work together to get through this event. You've listened to your clients in these circumstances. Can you give us an idea about what that process would be like with and without coverage?
With cyber insurance, vendor panel, fees, fines, notification costs, credit monitoring, business interruption, reputation harm, lawsuit on the third party side, all of the expenses and liability would be covered up to the policy limit. And you would have a team of vendor that will support you, even with your cybersecurity team that you may have on your side. But without, you better have a strong defensive posture, constantly testing, monitoring with MDR or security retainer for incident response or a VCSO prior to the cyber event, along with a healthy budget to cover all the first party and third party expenses associated with the cyber event. It's going to be costly for sure.
Yeah. I mean, even just having an incident response plan and knowing who to call first is helpful.
Yes, many times when it's a bit too late and money wasn't spent on prevention, the cure is costing a pound, right? This is livelihood of any business. When we get a call like that, we usually refer them to great partners like you, but it is understood that the cost and the expenses are all out of pocket. I have seen businesses shut down when a small business got hit with a cyber incident, and unfortunately, they had to close their door. It was really sad.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Some of our customers and some of our listeners are engaged as customers with service providers like CrowdStrike or other MSPs or MDR products. How does cyber insurance bridge the gap in restoring our systems after a breach?
I completely am glad when I hear that companies are using, great security company, or they have a strong security team in house. But even when we have strong MSP or security services, there are regulations and expenses associated with data breaches that you'll have to cover out of pocket. Think regulatory bodies, notification costs, credit monitoring, all the expenses that I talked about as a first party, right? Data breach can turn into a lawsuit from third parties as well. That's something that we need to consider, that we need financial cushion for. Latest trend that we're seeing is, even there's no harm from the leaked data, the lawsuit are being filed as no harm third party lawsuit. That means that breach party is stating that it can be harmful in future. So it is really important to have both cybersecurity along with a good cyber insurance to build a good risk. It is also good to have cyber insurance along with a good cyber posture for risk management purposes.
Speaking of collaboration, IS Squared works with clients to continuously improve their security posture, and lower risk should mean a better underwriting experience. What are underwriters looking for today, and what changes do you see in the next few months for cyber insurance underwriting?
I'll tell you, Paul, it is a constantly changing environment when it comes to cyber coverage because of this digital updates that we're having as we live our lives and as we run our businesses. Even as a startup or as a small company, cyber insurance companies want you to have multi-factor authentication, or what we also know as two-factor authentication, turned on. They want to make sure that you are backing up and your backups are encrypted or air gapped. They want to make sure that you have email security filters, you have incident recovery plan in place so you're not going all bonkers at the last minute. They also want to make sure that you have endpoint detection and response services, and that might get you some better rates when it comes to cyber coverages. But along with that, as they're asking you all these questions, they're also running assessment report in the background, like as if a hacker was looking into your system, because they want to make sure that your cyber posture, if there are any vulnerability that are critical, you take care of them right away before they release the quote to you. So you'll see a lot of times the clients are getting indication, or they might even get a contingency letter saying that we will release the quote only once you close all these gaps. So it's really important to make sure that along with having the basic coverage, your network is safe as well, right? Because they're looking at it too, along with providing cyber insurance, because they're covering those risks for you. So they want you to have as much of a buttoned up posture, cyber posture as possible. I would also like to add that it is so critical for SMBs to assess their security maturity, get educated, as well as plan to mitigate the unknown risks and cover those first party and third party cyber attacks and data breaches risk to protect from financial burden in the event of a cybercrime, and utilize the tools and assistance available to educate and build cyber resiliency.
And it seems that even before you pay the premium, just in the process of applying for the coverage, you're going to go through a good project to take a look at your IT infrastructure and your data and your policies and your incident response plan. And the insurance company is going to take a look at that too. And even before you pay for the premium, you're going to get a good bit of information about some of the risks that somebody else has seen, whether or not you've seen them internally.
Right. You're right on the money, Paul, because when an insurance company is taking that risk, they want to make sure that you're also doing your best to keep your cyber posture buttoned up, right? So it is not just, hey, I have cyber insurance, I don't need cybersecurity, or hey, I have good cybersecurity, I don't need cyber insurance, right? Because of all the costs and expenses and liability lawsuits that you may face that are not going to be covered if you just have cybersecurity company protecting you. So it is very important to look at that. And some of the companies do provide you that the cyber risk assessment report as a courtesy, and you can take that up with your MSP company, or if you have in-house team for cybersecurity, you may want to really closely look at that and close up all those vulnerability as much as possible, and constantly have a look for it as we're constantly changing and updated our digital footprint. You're so right, Paul.
Yeah, and regardless of the size of the company or the vertical, there's always at least one person or one entity that's interested in your data, and that's you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if the way to get a ransom out of you is to keep you from your data, well, then you're a target.
Yeah, exactly. This is where cyber insurance policy plays a big role. And this is so critical to understand that, like we were talking about earlier, right? When it comes to, having general liability or having cyber insurance endorsement, you're not covered under any of those cyber incidents, and you'll need a good cyber policy to make sure that you are financially secure in the event.
Charmaine, you've got a wealth of knowledge about cyber insurance and business liability. Thank you so much for your time today. Beyond what you've shared with us so far, how can you further help our attendees and customers?
I am so appreciative of everyone joining us today. I want all of us to know that I'm here, my company is here. Any type of consultation, you want to understand cyber insurance a little bit more, you have some questions, some things are unclear, you might have a professional liability with a cyber endorsement or anything of that sort. We're here to assist with that. We can also do a quick policy review of all your business insurance coverages that you may have. We can always also provide quote comparisons when you're up for your renewal, and as well as if you just wanted to look at all the options. If you don't have currently coverages, we can provide comparison and then choose a carrier. First of all, keeping that they're A-rated carriers and they have a good claim background, and then we look at the coverages and the insurance agreement they have, so that you have the best priced policy as well. And then of course there are times when we are having a contract where there's a certain requirement for insurance. The limit might be high or it's ridiculous for the size of your company, but regardless, you needed to earn that contract or move forward with that contract. This is where we play a huge role because of our focus in cyber industry. We're able to get you the quote with decent pricing and decent coverages, and get you to win that contract so you can earn more money at your end.
And you can even get a customer in front of the underwriter in case the underwriter's information is bad or they might be confused about what's going on. You could bring a partner and a customer and put them in front of the underwriter and make sure that they've got a good understanding of what the customer is doing and the investment that they've made in their cybersecurity so they can get the best possible terms in their policy.
Absolutely right.
Perfect. Again, thanks, Charmaine. We appreciate your time. And regardless of a good cybersecurity policy, what underwriters are looking for is the technology, the security technologies to help protect your organization from ransomware, breaches, loss of reputation, digital theft of intellectual property, and other cyber threats. And that's what we do here at IA Squared. And one of the ways that we can help is through assessments, infrastructure and security assessments, multi-vendor solutions for CASB, SASE, and ZTNA, our US-based managed SOC, EDR and MDR services, incident response, SIM and SOAR services, in addition to our managed network security and cloud security. We also do multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, Microsoft Red Forest for best security practices in a Windows Server environment. We offer lifecycle management, identity access management, IAM, identity governance and administration, plus privileged access management, and of course, backup and encryption of your data. Thank you very much for your time today. Please let us know if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one briefing with Charmaine with Blackfire or our teams here at IA Squared.